Hi there guys, I hope you are having a good day. Now there has been a back and forth between Anthony Joshua and Tyson Fury on social media, and it is with regards to the lengthy negotiations going on between the two parties in preparations for an undisputed fight. Now, Anthony Joshua simply wrote this on his Twitter page. Spartan, I'm tired. My fans are tired. Your fans are tired. We're all tired of the talk. Less talk, more action. At Tyson Fury. Now, Tyson Fury has since responded to this by saying, "Come and get some then, you big ugly dosser. You're no talk, no action." Now, of course, there's been a lot of talk about this fight and many updates and, site deals, site offers, and apparently Tyson Fury is not willing to accept or agree until he is guaranteed proof of funds. Now, of course, he is entitled to ask for proof of funds. The interesting thing is Bob Arum seems to be lining up some kind of contingency plan in July. Now, that's kind of interesting. Why line something up like that if they are 100% invested in Undisputed? I mean, if they're talking about that, then what was their intentions with regards to the Saudi Arabia site deal that Eddie Hearn has been trying to put together for this Undisputed fight? It's just weird. And I agree with Anthony Joshua, we're all tired of this now, we just want to see the fight get over the line. In fact, some of us would just rather they fight someone, because at some point, it's going to be like 6, 7, 8 months out the ring for Anthony Joshua, and even longer for Tyson Fury, because he hasn't actually fought since Deontay Wilder on the 22nd of February 2020, so he's been out of the ring for an extremely long time. Does he want to keep that kind of inactivity going, or does he want to just get back in the ring? At some point it will come to that. If they do not get this deal done, then AJ's going to have to fight. Tyson Fury's going to have to fight. I mean, Anthony Joshua is putting off his WBO mandatory Alexander Usyk, just so he can try and make this fight. And the interesting thing is they're not moving forwards with Usyk versus Joe Joyce for the interim title to allow this fight to go ahead and make sure the WBO title will be on the line. That fight isn't going ahead because Usyk is still holding out with the hope of fighting AJ. At some point you have to wonder whether they will just move on. I mean, AJ wants to be active, Tyson Fury wants to be active, and Usyk is waiting for his opportunity. Is there going to be some point where Usyk says, this fight isn't being done, give me my mandatory opportunity? I mean, he said that before, and it is only a matter of time before he goes to the WBO, and kind of puts forward the notion that the Undisputed fight is being drawn out and likely won't happen. So let's just get on and get this mandatory situation sorted so that he can have his world title opportunity against AJ, because I mean, he waited and fought Derek Chisora in the meantime while AJ fought Kubrat Pulev, his IBF mandatory. So he's waited before, and that wasn't an exception. That was down to Usyk himself at making that decision to step aside and wait for one more fight, and that was likely beneficial for him anyway, only having one fight at heavyweight against Chaz Witherspoon, so it was probably beneficial for Usyk to have one more at heavyweight, but still, he does want to have that world title chance, and he's not getting it at the moment, and there is no Undisputed fight to show for the fact that he will not get it in his next fight. And I mean, he's not going to fight Joe Joyce for an interim title if he still believes he can fight AJ for the other world titles as well, IBF, WBA, IBO, and that WBO title that he is mandatory to. And when it comes down to things being said between the fighters, the promoters, and sources, news, and all of that, who do we believe? Do we believe Tyson Fury? Given what he said in the past, I'm not entirely convinced that we can go off of what Tyson Fury says. Bob Arum? No. Eddie Hearn even? Probably not. I mean, he said the fight could be announced this week. Then Anthony Joshua says everyone is tired, and he's tired. He just wants to get the fight signed and get it over the line. So I believe the only one we can really rely on is Anthony Joshua, because, I mean, Tyson Fury said he's no talk, no action. I mean, he's kind of proven that he is about the action, but he's not necessarily about the talking. He doesn't want to talk about it, he just wants to get it done. If there is something to be said, then he'll say it. Other than that, he's not really bothered about hyping things up. So when he says that he is tired and the fans are tired, he just wants to get the fight done, then that can be a cause for concern. I mean, it was only quite recently that sources were claiming the fight was going to happen on August 14th. in Saudi Arabia. And I mean, just a few hours later, Anthony Joshua says that he's worried the fight isn't going to go ahead and is telling Tyson Fury quite formally, "Let's talk more action." But then obviously Tyson Fury has come back himself and responded to that and saying that he's no talk, no action. That is how things seem to be going in negotiations for this fight. One person says one thing and another person says another. You'd think that they'd all be on the same page if they are all working towards the same thing and they are all certain it is going to happen. I mean, there is nothing that is guaranteed, but still, if they were confident of making the fight, you would think that they would all have a common understanding. That hasn't really happened. I mean, there was one time when everyone was on the same page, and that was when Bob Arum explained, yes, things are going ahead. There is this deal in Saudi that Eddie Hearn has been able to secure, or at least an offer had been sent, and they had looked over it. Frank Warren said the same, and Tyson Fury seemed pretty excited about it. So, at that point, yes, everyone was on the same page, but that's the only time they have been. Other than that, there's been AJ saying one thing that there's some positive news coming, but I mean, he's only said that 2 or 3 times. Now he said this. Tyson Fury has continuously been explaining. He doesn't believe the fight's going to happen, he doesn't believe Anthony Joshua wants it, and he is very skeptical. Bob Arum's done the same. Frank Warren has done the same. Eddie Hearn has been confident and positive, but then again he was confident and positive of making AJ versus Deontay Wilder, and that one never happened. Now, I'm not saying that it's Eddie Hearn's fault. I believe that he's been the one trying his hardest to get this fight done, going around to different territories trying to secure a site deal for this fight. So it's not his fault. He's done everything he possibly can. And he even explained in an interview quite recently, he can do only his best. And if it's not enough, then he can say fair enough and try again next time. But I don't know when there will be a next time with mandatories coming for AJ. I mean, he does have 4 world titles, 3 if you're not going to count the IBO, and mandatories are going to come thick and fast. I mean, you have that WBO situation, the IBF eliminator between Michael Hunter and Filip Hrgovic, which will determine the next IBF mandatory. A WBA mandatory will come soon. So there is going to be a situation when the fight might not be able to happen due to mandatories. That's going to make it very difficult for AJ, and Tyson Fury will have a mandatory next year, likely Dillian Whyte. So if the fight doesn't happen now, you have to wonder when it will. Apparently the latest stumbling block is this site deal, and Tyson Fury has said he won't sign the site deal contract unless the money is guaranteed by a bank, and apparently lawyers are working to resolve this, but Bob Arum is discussing a possible July US fight as a backup. So now that they are looking at contingency plans, that does make you wonder about whether this fight will actually happen. I mean, this latest stumbling block is the reason why Anthony Joshua has made that post directed at Tyson Fury, but Tyson Fury has just come back in Tyson Fury fashion. And I mean, the clock is ticking. Tyson Fury said TikTok, the clock is ticking a couple of weeks ago, and the fight still wasn't agreed that week when he was believing that it would. So time is going by, and August 14th seems like the likely date that has been rumoured by sources, not confirmed and not 100% guaranteed, but there were 3 dates and that seems the most likely out of all of them. But still, the clock is ticking towards then, and there are other fighters who want their opportunity at Tyson Fury and Anthony Joshua, so if the deal is not done very soon, then this fight might not happen. It is crazy. I mean, there is this back and forth between Tyson Fury and Anthony Joshua, and just as I was making this video, Eddie Hearn has now stated that Anthony Joshua versus Tyson Fury will take place August 7th or 14th in Saudi. He insisted he and Anthony Joshua are comfortable trusting the Saudis who delivered every one of their promises for the Andy Ruiz Jr. rematch in 2019. So there's that as well. Anyway guys, what are your thoughts on this? Make sure you leave your thoughts in the comments below. Also leave a like and grab that subscribe button. Thanks guys.